Hi everybody, Tony here from K2. Thanks for attending our webinar. I'm joined today by Igor, who's a K2 technical specialist, been working with the K2 platform for many, many years. And myself, I'm the K2 Business Development Manager, one of the managers for Australia. I understand we've got quite a few New Zealand people on the call today, so it's a welcome as well. I hope the demonstration today is going to be informative. Right, so I'm going to jump straight into the webinar. We're going to take you through a few slides, and then Igor will do a presentation today for us of an expense claim application where we're going to demonstrate how we can extract data from various line of business systems and pull that information onto a form and build your small application and workflow, just to demonstrate some of the capabilities of the K2 platform. I expect some of you will have a couple of questions, so feel free to log those questions using your GoToMeeting tools on your side panel on the right-hand side. Anytime we'll try and answer those either during the presentation or at the end. And if you have further questions after the webinar, feel free to drop either Igor or myself an email. All right, so the theme of today is building and running business applications. The applications that you have in your organizations today touch the way you affect the way you engage with your employees, with your suppliers, and with your customers. And we can therefore classify those applications as being the language of your business. It creates a representation of what your business is and a perception of that business. And in order for your business to grow, you need to scale those applications within your organization. So I'd like to do a quick poll, just for those that are on the call. If you could use your webinar poll, answer the webinar poll that we're going to put up in a second, and just give us an indication of whether you have a development background or whether you're not technical at all. It'll just help us position the presentation today. All right, so I can see about 60% of you have filled in the poll so far, 67%. You can just keep on clicking. We'll soon get a result. All right, so it seems most of you have a technical background, so I'll just leave that for Igor. We'll drill down into a few technical components, but for those that are business focused, we won't make it too technical. You should be able to understand what we're demoing today. All right. So in order to deliver these business applications within your business, you've got a couple of options. You can choose to purchase an off-the-shelf application and try and customize that application to meet your requirements. The second option is you can hire a team of contractors or developers who can go and write a lot of code to go and build your business application. Or you can consider a new age technology platform like K2 that gives you the drag and drop capability to go and build the business application that you need with little or no code and integrate that application into your line of business systems as you require as well, so that we can use your data to go and build your application. I think that's quite important. From a K2 point of view, we're mad about reusability. So within the platform, we have basically a forms capability, a workflow capability, a data integration capability, and an ability to create reports as well, so that we can visualize some of this information for you. So with those four features in mind, data is the most important component of those four K2 platform capabilities. If we cannot get data in and out of your business applications, we cannot help you build an application. So all the K2 tooling is aimed at helping you get that information out and using that information to help you build your forms, your workflow, and your reports as well. If we have a little bit of a closer look at K2 Forms capability, we have drag and drop design tools to help you go and create a form. K2 Forms could be standalone forms, or those forms could be integrated into your standard line of business applications or platforms like SharePoint or CRM. K2 forms are made up of reusable components called views, and those views can be linked to different back-end data sources so that we can get that data out of those back-end systems, represent it on a form, get somebody to make a decision, and then push that information back to the respective line of business systems. Each K2 view is reusable so that we can drag and drop those views onto different forms. And at K2, we're mad about reusability. Everything that we do is reusable. K2 forms are also mobile ready. To do that, we support the different browsers on the various devices. So you can get a browser-based form experience whether you're using an iPhone, a Windows phone, an iPad, or an Android tablet. Your experience will be the same. From a workflow point of view, K2 has many years in the workflow space, and we've got different tool sets to empower different users with different skills to help themselves build a workflow. So it could be a very simple workflow that we build against the K2 form or against a SharePoint component and empower business users to help themselves. Or it could be an advanced workflow process that's used by business analysts, project managers, or developers to handle those complex routing scenarios. We can go and put rules and logic within those processes. We can handle things like escalations to handle your complex scenarios as well. From a workflow point of view, we've got all the tools to help you integrate with your common line of or your common Microsoft tools, things like Exchange, Word. We can integrate with CRM, Microsoft CRM or Salesforce out of the box, and we've got different wizards and components to do that. On the Exchange side, we've got the capability to create and manage mailboxes as part of a workflow process, or even go and create and manage Active Directory accounts as part of a workflow process as well. And from a K2 point of view, we can span into the cloud. We can create these components against Azure Active Directory as well, if you need that capability. From a reporting point of view, it's all about visualization of information. So we've got a couple of out-of-the-box reports that will help you visualize the track and trace information around a workflow process. We can also give you a visual representation of what the running workflow process would look like, so business users and those that are involved in the process can get a visual representation of where they are. Again, we can view the same information on a mobile device, and it's all about merging the track and trace information with your business data so that you can get a custom report, and we can plug into standard reporting platforms like Excel or SQL Server reporting services to represent or present these reports to your end users. But in order to create these applications, we need data. Traditional integration approach requires you to get a bunch of developers, and typically they would write a bunch of code to wire up your front end, your forms, to your back end systems. In doing that, you need to have skill sets in order to create the front end applications. You need skill set to understand the middle layer, the code, the integration code that you would write, and you need to have skill set to understand each back end system that you're integrating to. So it creates a lot of overhead, it creates a lot of maintenance, overload on your business applications as well. At K2, we've got a different approach. Rather than wiring up those applications directly, we have a technology called K2 Smart Objects that allows us to create reusable business entities or a representation of what that data would look like. We have different tools to help you create that smart object, either using a designer, or we can generate that smart object against a back-end system. We can then reference those smart objects when we're building out our forms, our views, and creating logic within our workflow processes, and we don't have to worry about integrating into the back-end systems. Integration is done using out-of-the-box K2 integration components. So this approach allows our customers and our partners to focus on solving the business problem and not have to worry about the integration. Integration is as easy as clicking a button to generate a smart object. In order to integrate into a back-end system, we need a connector. And so we've got a bunch of standard out-of-the-box connectors that allow us to integrate into different versions of SharePoint. Could be 27, 2010, 2013, or even SharePoint Online, SQL databases, Oracle databases. We've got an SAP connector. You can even connect to industry standard web services without having to write code. So those are just the standard connectors. If you go and visit our community portal, you'll find a bunch of community connectors, basically open source connectors that you can are free to use. And there's also a bunch of resources available, being ourselves as K2 or templates that can help you go and create connectors into legacy systems if you need them. Right, so just quickly a second poll. We're going to start the demo shortly. So we just want to get an idea of which back-end systems are common for within your organization from an integration point of view. So if you could quickly fill out the next poll, this is the last one, just to give us an idea of whether you have SharePoint, SAP, or CRM in your organization. That would just give us an idea of where to spend our time within the demonstration. Right, so we've got about 80% who have SharePoint, a couple who got CRM, 27% with SAP, and a few custom dev applications out there as well. I'm assuming most of those custom dev applications will either have a database behind them or web services that we can connect to. So that makes a great story for K2. Right, 87% have voted, so thank you very much for that. That gives us quite a lot of information. All right, next slide. So today's demonstration, Igor is going to generate a couple of smart objects for us. We'll do that against Office 365, a SQL database, Microsoft CRM, as well as SAP. So they'll give us the smart objects we need. From those smart objects, we're going to generate views. If you remember previously, views are reusable components that we can drag and drop onto a form. And then we'll use those views to assemble forms and use the smart objects as well to put logic within and routing within our workflow processes. From a forms point of view, we can even wire up individual controls on a form to the respective smart objects, so we can put logic and rules on a form as well. So just to repeat, at K2 we're mad about reusability, so we can reuse smart objects, views, and forms, and as well as reuse those smart objects to drive the rules and logic within the workflow. Right, so with that in mind, I'm going to hand over to Igor, and he'll take us through the demo. Thanks, Igor.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, so I'm going to get straight out of PowerPoint and going to show you the actual tooling in the product. So today's session is more focused about the line of business integration, the title of the webinar. There's a lot to K2, not enough that we would cover in the next 45 minutes or so. So if there's any other aspects of K2, just you can speak to us afterwards about that, and we can do more in-depth session on any of those. Right. So as Tony mentioned, we're going to build out a little form, and what we want to do is bring in the data and information from various different systems. So I'm just going to introduce you to some of the systems that we want to interact with. So the first system that we want to interact with is a SQL database. So what I've done for this demonstration is I've built just a little basic SQL database. So I've got a little custom database here. Inside there I've got a table, and inside that table I've got a little table here called expense claim. So if you have a look at that, there we go. So that's a SQL table. We're going to be able to store the title, the date of the expense, who the customer is. Maybe this expense is related to a specific customer, so we want to be able to specify what customer that was. Maybe we have to put a company code on our expense so that we know what that's allocated against. An amount that could be in multi-currency, so we want to bring that back in as Australian dollars. Maybe who the approver is going to be, description of the expense, status of what it currently is. And then I've added two other fields here, a little mobile number and maybe the employee that this expense is related to. So I've just added those, so you can see just a standard little SQL database where we want to store this data. So that's one example. The data could also be, this could have been a SharePoint list with those fields, and we could use that as a repository. We've decided today to show you a little bit of a combination approach of a few things. So that's the one of a SQL database. The other system that we're going to be interacting with is going to be CRM. So I've got a dynamic CRM environment here as well. And what we're going to do with this is use this as a repository of our customers. So inside of this environment, I've got a number of different accounts. So you can see there's a few different accounts sitting inside of there at the moment. And we want to also bring in information from this particular system. So just to show you a little example, if I go to one of these accounts, maybe this AdventureWorks over here, I can open this particular one. And what I'm going to do here is just change the name slightly. Instead of sample over here, I'm just going to take today's date. It's 11/26, and just update that inside there and save that. So we'll see that pull through as part of the demonstration there as well. The other system that we're going to interact with is Office 365. So this is an Office 365 environment where we've got K2 enabled. You can even see the little K2 work list inside here at the moment. And what this environment I've got is a list of currencies. So inside here, I've just got a standard SharePoint list with a bunch of currencies, and we want to be able to populate and pull in these currencies from this Office 365 environment. I'll probably stop for a second and just explain. K2 can be used completely independently of SharePoint, but it can also be used with SharePoint. And if you do have SharePoint, we don't care whether it's Office 365 or on-premise, the same functionality is provided for both. There's feature parity between those different environments. Okay. Is there any other environment I've missed off now? I think that's pretty much all of them. Right. The only other thing is interacting with a web service to maybe do those currency conversion, to convert pounds to dollars or such, to be able to bring that information inside of there. So those are the different environments. What we want to do now is be able to pull those environments into K2 so that we can take advantage of them. So the first one's pretty simple to do. If I go back into the Office 365 environment, let me look back in over there. Okay, so inside of this environment, we've got that list of currencies. So just to show you an example on another one. So if I've got departments here, and you can see this little title and the manager, what I'm able to do from within inside of here is I want to expose this data as a K2 Smart Object so that we can consume it and use it inside of a solution. What you do is just go behind that, you click on the K2 little application button, and then what that does is that brings you an option where you can now go and generate K2 Smart Objects out of that backend environment. So it gives you a few options. It allows you to either choose whether you want to expose that Office 365 environment as a list, as just a smart object, as just as data. I could choose I want to put some forms around it, some workflows, and even reports around that, and be able to simply go ahead and do that. So I've got one that I did a little bit earlier over here, just to save us a bit of time. I've got one to do with currencies. So here's my currencies. If I go to the list, click on the little K2 application button, you'll see what has been created there for us. So behind that, you'll see that there are some K2 Smart Objects that have been generated. There we go. So there's a smart object around the currency. And now what I can do from this environment is be able to go and create a view around that currency. So I've got one that I created earlier, but I'm going to create a new one just to show you what it's like. From a SharePoint context, you'll be able to create something around that. So again, what we're going to do here is we're going to go and create a new view. So this little view, I'm going to prefix it again with 11/26. 11/26. This is going to be my Office 365 currency view. All right, so this is a little view onto my Office 365 currency stuff. We're going to have that as a little item view. And what I want to do is be able to add new currencies inside here. So I'm just going to go and automatically generate a simple little form for myself. So let's generate a form. I want the title and the description. And I want a little button that is the actual create list item button. Let's do that. So it builds that little view for me. I can go here and make it look slightly differently and maybe add some validation and logic behind the scenes. But pretty much that's all I want to do now. So you can see there's a little title and description. And what I'll do, just to show you it's all real as well, I could go and maybe stick a little label inside here with 11/26 inside there as well. Okay, so finish that. And essentially I now have this new little view that we can now utilize with inside of K2. We could use that with inside of SharePoint, or we could use that inside of another application that doesn't maybe even use SharePoint, but we want to be able to interact with some of that SharePoint information. So you'll see that come into effect in a couple of minutes. The other environment that we wanted to interact with was the SQL database. So for the SQL database, we can go into the K2 tooling. Over here are all the connectors that I have available to me on this environment. What I have here is one to do with SQL Server. I can connect up to my custom SQL database. You can see it's connected over there. That explores, and I can see all the tables that are available to me, and there's my little expense claim table that is available over there. And what I can do here is right-click and say, create me a smart object out of that. So this is another way of being able to publish those out. I'm going to go and put that into my little event folder, and I'm going to prefix that also with 1126 expense claim, and publish that out. And that effectively now creates a smart object against that SQL database that I can now interact with. So just to show you where it is now, under my little Smart Object Explorer, under Event, there is a Smart Object 1126 expense claim, and it's got the methods to be able to interact with that SQL database. So that's now, so we've got one for Office 365. I've just created one for the SQL database. What I can also do is we need to create one for that CRM environment. So this one I'll do from scratch as well. So I can go into my connector to CRM, register a new service instance to my CRM. I can specify how do we authenticate when K2 connects to CRM. So impersonate will impersonate a person's credentials through to the CRM system. I'm going to use a service account in this example because I actually want you to be involved in this demonstration. And obviously I can't authenticate all of you out there. I don't have all your sort of usernames and logins, so I'll just use a service account. So it asks a couple of questions like, what is a CRM system? So I'm just going to connect to it. So it's crm.denelix.com, and then the organization name that I want to connect to is Denelix. So I'll connect to that, and I'm going to call this my 1126 CRM. 1126 CRM. There we go. Add. That now goes and explores that CRM system. Even if it's a custom CRM system, finds out all the entities, all the relationships, and the methods that we can perform against those, and then we'll go and expose that to me now as a service. So there it is, 1126 CRM. I can open that up. I can see all the entities that are sitting inside there, and there is the CRM account one, which I'm going to create a smart object against and put that also into our little events folder, 1126 as well. Publish that out. And now, just to show you again what's happened, if I go to those smart objects, there's the 1126 account one with its methods, and I can go from here and do a test. I'm going to go and run the getList method, execute that, and that's now brought me that list coming from CRM, and you can see that AdventureWorks 1126 when we created a little bit earlier exposed for us over there. So I think the others that I've got, I'll take advantage of. So we've got the database one, the CRM one, we've got the Office 365 one, and there's a couple other ones we'll probably take advantage of the demo that I built earlier, which will just show you the kind of reuse you can take advantage of. So what we've really done in the last few minutes is the integration. We've practically got K2 now ready to connect to CRM, to Office 365, to SQL Server. We've got other ones that are already pre-built for us. Things like the SAP one over here. So there's SAP. I've got a smart object that connects us to SAP, and it's done in very much the same way as the others. So once we've got the connector, being able to expose that data and expose the system is really quite easy. All right, so the next thing we're going to do now is go and use them and go and take advantage of them from a building of an application point of view. So what we're going to do for that is we're going to use the K2 Designer to be able to do this. Inside of my K2 Designer, I'm going to go now to that event place. You can see those smart objects that have been created for us. I'm just going to drag those into my little expense claim folder just to keep things in one place for me, just to categorize them a little bit better. And what I'm now going to do is go to my expense claim one, and I want to now have a visualization around that, what we call a view. So let's design a view. So you'll see it's very similar to the view we created for the Office 365 stuff. So this is our 1126 expense claim view. There it is. So it's got all the fields coming from SQL. I can also go and use other controls. You'll see there's a host of controls that sit inside here. These are controls that come out of the box with K2, as well as controls that you can actually build yourself or go to our community site and be able to download and utilize some of these controls as well. So just in light of time, I'm also going to go and generate this automatically. Let's bring in all those fields, and let's go and generate that. So okay. So you can see that it's built all the little fields for us, a little title, date of expense, and a number of things that sit inside here. So I'm going to just move things around. I wanted the little description to be up at the top here. What I can do with that is maybe stretch that across, change this control to a little text area, allow you to fill in a little bit more details. What we also want to do is the customer. So remember, we want that customer to come out of CRM. So what I'll do for that is I'm going to go and allow you to select customers out of CRM. But now I might have thousands of customers, so I'm not going to turn that into a drop-down. I can actually use something called a little picker control that will help us search against the CRM system. So I'm saying let's turn that into a picker. I'm going to use one, and what we want to do is which smart object do we now want to talk to? So I can now go and connect that to the event, to the expense claim system where we've got the 1126 account, which we created a few seconds ago. It now brings in my CRM data. I want to do a search against the account name and probably the account city. And when I display it onto my form, I just want to display it with the account name and city when it gets rendered. Well, actually, let's just put the account name for now. Just keep it simple. All right. So that's the one. So that is now searching against our CRM system. For the company codes, we want that to come from SAP. So I'm going to change that as well into this time a drop-down list box. For that, we go and we now connect to a smart object. And now you'll see a repetitive thing going on here. You're going to see that I'm doing this in exactly the same way for all of them. So once something's a smart object, the way that you interact and use it is the same. So you never have to think about, how do I now do the SAP stuff compared to the CRM stuff. Once it is a smart object, and let's say the technical guys have exposed that smart object to you, as somebody who's maybe less technical than that can now take advantage and use it. You'll also see for the drop-down, I could do things like cascading drop-downs where I can filter the SAP codes that come back based upon other controls or other fields that are filled in. All right. So we're going to have an amount for the currency. Remember, we wanted to use that Office 365 environment. So just in the same way for the currencies, let's use an option box this time, a little radio button list. So I'm going to use that. We're going to say that gets its data as well from a smart object once again. And this time, where does my smart object come from? So I'm opening my SharePoint little category here. That is my Office 365 environment. Let's go into that. Under my sites, I've got a little test site inside there. There's a list under that. There's my currency, and there's my currency smart object that was generated. So I'm going to bring that in, and this time I'm just going to use the little title field. And for the display field, I want you to display the title and the actual description that sits inside there. All right. Now I can do some other things. I can add some rules onto this. What I want to do now is that when you actually choose a currency, I want to take the amount that you've timed in, take the currency, pass that to a web service, and get what the amount is based upon the date of the expense. So a nice little rule to be able to put in there. So let's add that little rule. So I'm going to say when the currency has been changed, and I can put some conditions. I can say making sure that we've got a date of expense as well as an amount entered. So as long as those two are entered, so some rules, then what I'm going to do is go and call another smart object. So in my environment, I've got a smart object that I use quite often called get currency by date. So now I don't have to worry about the web service. I just know that smart object exists, and it takes a couple of fields that come in. So it needs to know what are we converting from. So we are converting from whatever they've got in the currency drop-down. We're going to Australian dollars for the amount that they captured on their screen. So from the amount in the text box, and for the date of the expense. That will return back a value which we're going to put into the Australian amount field. So it's going to have done that calculation for us. And then what we might as well do is go to that amount, the Australian amount, and make that read only so someone can't just go and type anything inside there. Okay. What I'll also do is let's go to the top here and let's add the employee up at the top. I'll leave that as free text for now. You can just type something inside there And let's get rid of a couple other fields I don't need. Let's also put the mobile up at the top. Okay, so let's maybe put that over there. So just changing the layout a little bit. Right, so if you think about this little view that we've got, it's now, it's based upon a smart object connecting to SQL. It's pulling customers out of CRM. It's pulling company codes out of SAP. It's pulling a list of currencies out of Office 365, and it's going to do some currency conversion. But maybe what we also want to do is do something a little bit more advanced here as well. We might want to do something that will, what happens if the currency isn't existing? They don't have the actual currency that we're looking for. So what I'd like you to be able to do here is actually add a new currency. So I'm going to go and grab a little button, little toolbar button over here. Let me just drop that inside here. In this little button, I'm going to make this a little add thing, and I'm going to allow you from this form to go and update the list of currencies that are sitting in Office 365. So I'll just call that little add over here, and let's call this add currency. Okay. So what that is going to do is going to have a little rule that says when you click on that button, when that control is clicked, what I want to do now is open a view, a little sub-view. The sub-view that we want to open up, now again, I'm going to go into my Office 365 environment, and we're going to go get that view that we built right at the beginning of this demonstration. So under currency, there it is, the 1126 currency view. Let's bring that in, and let's tell that little view to open up. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to do, allow that little view to open up. But now when I go to my rules, I can actually see the rule when the create list item is clicked on that button. So I can, from here, see the rule of that other view. And I'm going to intercept that rule and add some further logic to that. So when that actually happens, I want to close. So when somebody clicks on adding a currency inside of that sub-view, we want to close the view, and I want to repopulate the list of currencies on my form. So I'm going to just tell that to repopulate. Okay. So I think that's probably all I need for now. So that's our basic little view. So even though it's quite a few things we've integrated in there, and that would really take that view into quite an advanced view, but it hasn't been very complex to build in this instance. The next thing we're going to do is just build a little form. So this is going to be our 1126 expense claim form. All right, so here's a little form. Let's bring in the view that we just built into this little form. You can see it's arrived there, and it's got some styling now applied to it as well. Then what I'm also going to do is just go and add a little K2 header onto this, and a little K2 footer. So this is me being able to reuse views now, and just simply rapidly build a form now based upon some previous work that I would have done earlier. So expense details, I can type a little title inside there as well. So there's a little form. I can also give this some characteristics about how big and small it sort of loads up. So I don't ever want it to shrink too small, but I don't want it to open up across the entire screen, otherwise it looks too big. So a couple little details that happen inside there. The other thing that I can now do as well is go and add a little button onto this for when somebody submits something. So on my form level, we can also add further rules and controls to do things. And what I'm going to do here is add a little button. So let me go find my button. There we go. Add this little button inside here. Let's align it across. And let's align that across. And let's call this a little submit. Is everything okay?
A bit fast.
Okay. All right. I'll slow down a little bit. Okay, so I mean, don't see this as a training exercise. If you want to learn how to use K2, I can show you at another time. But just sort of this is really just to give you a sense of how the pieces put together. So we've got a little form, and what we've also got then is a little button that we're going to use to kick off a process. Okay, so let me save that for now. And what I do have is I have this workflow process. So this is the K2 Process Designer. What we've got is as soon as that form, that form will be able to start this process. And then this process is going to go through a little approval step. That approval step could either be declined or approved. It then goes to finance processing, and then it's completed. Now, what's quite nice is from this workflow as well, I've got access to the same smart object. So there's the expense claim detail smart object. and all the information regarding it. So from inside of my workflows, I can also access smart objects, which means I can also access your backend line of business data as well and interact with that. So what we're going to do here is, just to make this a little bit more interesting, I'm going to go and add a call to a smart object from our workflow as well. So there's a little smart object event. And what we're going to do is that if this expense claim is approved or declined, we want to go and give it a little update. So once this expense claim is completed, I'm dropping a little smart object inside there. We're going to call this send notification. What smart object do I want to interact with from this level? So again, I can go and open up, connect to my different smart objects, including the ones that we built under my events over here. So there's my expense claim and my account one. So maybe at this point we want to update CRM as an example. In this example, I'm going to go and connect to a smart object that I've got wrapped around a web service that sends out text messages. So I want to be able to call the send a text message. So it's going to ask me a message from and a mobile. So for this, we're going to say, well, the mobile number we're going to send it to is whatever the mobile number is that's filled in against that SQL data, which will be updated on the form. So let's drop the mobile number inside here. The from is going to, I'll just put a little K2 inside there. And the message is going to be, let's put the employee name inside here. Set the employee name. Say, your claim has been approved or completed, or whatever the detail you want to type inside there. So that's a little send notification we've got at the end of that. Once I do that and make my changes, I simply deploy my process. That packages my process up, make sure I haven't got any errors inside of it, and deploys that process onto the K2 server as a new version. Okay, so that process is now deployed. Now what we're going to do is go back to my little form here and wire that up. So when you hit the submit button, let's add some rules behind this. So when the submit button is clicked, I can add a condition. The first condition I'm going to do is some validation. So I'm not going to allow you to submit this expense claim unless you put an employee name in it, put in a mobile number, and maybe put in an amount as an example. So I could go and select a few of these different fields that you actually need to capture. All right, I'll put the date in there as well. So once that form has passed validation, what do we want to do? So what I want to do here is I'm first going to tell my expense claim to execute its create method. So I want to save the data that has been filled in on the form. So I'll just automate those fields across, and that does that for me. So that's going to save the data into SQL. The next thing that I want to do is I want to be able to start a workflow. So here I can go now and select the workflow that I want to start. And inside here, I can now go and find my expense claim workflow. There it is. Expense claim, that's the one we just deployed. I'm going to say, go and start that workflow, passing in the ID of the new expense claim that we've created, which is coming back from SQL now, passing in that. And for the folio is like a reference. What I'll do is I'll put the title of the expense, dash the ID of the item inside there as well. All right. So that's going to go and start up our process. Then let's provide some feedback to the user. Let's show a message to let them know that they've submitted that. So I'm going to say, well done, workflow. I'm going to say has started. So that's just the basic. And then the last thing we're going to do as well is just simply disable the form so they don't submit it twice before it's completed. All right. So that's just the basic stuff that we are going to take advantage of. So I'm just going to check that in. And if we go and have a look at our form now, that is the basic little form that we've just built. This form is now connecting to those various backend systems. So you'll see there, it's now got a list of current customers. I can go in here, type in the AdventureWorks. There it is with 1126 as a customer that I'm selecting. There's my company codes coming out of SAP. Here's that list of currencies coming out of the backend Office 365 environment. And what I can also do is I can say, let me add a new currency onto this. Type in a title. So let's say the currency is going to be whatever, let's say ZAR, South African Rands, Rands, as an example. So I click on the button that saves that into my Office 365 environment and updates that list as the rule that we put in. So you can see South African Rands is here now, right? So now if I go back into Office 365, go back to my currency list, you can see there's South African Rands being added inside there. So what you had to look at was pretty cool. I mean, I'm sitting on an expense claim form, being able to get a list from Office 365, click on the add button and add those directly back to that Office 365 environment. To the end user that's working on this, never needs to even know that it's Office 365 or what that underlying system is that's busy doing that. The last thing that I need to do is Katie has got security around the things that you do as well. So I just need to go and allow the different users to be able to start this process. So let me open up the Katie workspace. So behind this, K2's got an entire management suite that sits behind the things that you do in K2. What I'm doing right now is I'm just connecting up to my workflows. I can go inside here and find the specific workflow that we're busy working on. It's a DB expense claim. And what I'm going to do inside here is add some process rights, and you can see inside here, I've specified that everyone is going to have rights to be able to interact with this workflow. So you can go and restrict around security about who can start these processes and be able to interact with them. So let me let you guys actually interact with this. So what I'm going to do is provide this now as a link so that you can load it up on your own devices and be able to interact with it. So I'm just going to make an external version of this form available. So if you type in this URL into your browser, you should see that form come up. And if you want to see it on your mobile device, send a text message to this number with the word add. It'll appear in this list, and when I have a few of them inside there, I'll send that through to you as well. So if you want to be able to, send a text message to that number, and then see what happens inside there. So I'll leave that on the screen there for a few minutes, and see if any of you guys, and feel free to fill in the form, fill in some basic details inside there, and then click on the submit button, and then we should see a couple of approvals come in into that workflow process. So I can see we've got one in there so far. Let's see if there's any others. Yeah, I can see they're coming in. So keep them coming. As soon as I get a few in there, I'll send those off to you. Okay, thank you. There's a couple more coming inside there. I haven't even tested the form myself at the moment to see if it's actually working. So I'm kind of going on a limb, letting you see the form before I've actually clicked on it or submitted it off. Okay, I'll send those to you guys so long. I might have clicked on it twice. You might have got two text messages there, but still some more coming in. Let me send those out as well. This is quite interesting. What I'm using here is a little texting service. This is a K2 Smart form that I've written to make this little part of my demo work. I actually did this with absolutely no code. I'm using some of the components that generate tiny URLs. We've got a web service that does that, and then I've got a little texting thing that I'm polling to get any new text messages. And when I hit the send button, I start a process for each text message to send out that number to you. All right, so let's go and start this off together then. So let's go and type something in. I'm just going to type my name inside of here with my mobile number 0411180044. I'm going to expense a Ferrari, and let's put a little date. So put a little description inside there. So this is going to be need a fast car for work. So I've selected a customer. Let's put an amount of quite a bit of money, and let's say that amount in Great British pounds. So by clicking on that, you can see that's now updated the Australian amount over there, and then I'm going to submit that off. That's now started a little workflow process with a little message come inside there and disable the form. So now what will happen is that's going to have gone and started a bunch of processes. So maybe I want to be able to track them. So I haven't created a little status view of our workflows. So what I'm going to do here is go back to our smart object against that SQL data, and I'm going to go now quickly and automatically generate a form around this. I'm going to generate a little list form and put that onto a page and call that track expense claims. So that's a very quick way of being able to generate forms. Now I can go and have a look at that little list. You'll see what's been generated for me. It's a little view with all those little fields inside of it. So maybe I don't want all of them. I want the title. Maybe I don't want the date inside here. So we can go and customize this little view a little bit. I don't want the customer. I don't want the company code. I want the amount. Maybe the currency, the Australian amount. The description is fine. Status and mobile. Let's remove that. I don't want to expose everyone's mobile numbers. The employee I'll put is maybe this first column over here. All right. So let's have a look at that. So if I now go and click on my little list, here we go. So you guys have been busy. So I can see quite a few expense claims have been submitted already, and the little status is showing me that they're all currently in the approval state. So that's just a very quick way of me building a quick report, bring up a little dashboard, showing me what's currently going on in that system. If I open up that SQL database, let's go and open that up. You'll see that SQL database with all those fields that you guys have filled in. So hopefully you recognize your own field entry that you've added inside there. And now if I go into K2, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into, I can show you from a few different scenarios here. I'm going to go into the K2, my Office 365 environment on the one form, and then on the other form, I'm going to go to my on-premise SharePoint environment. So if you look at this, this is now Office 365, and inside of Office 365, I can see all these approvals that have come for me to interact with. If I go into my on-premise environment, you can see here, I'm seeing the same list of approvals. So it really doesn't matter where your users end up sitting, whether they're in different applications. I can even show this little list on a little process dashboard. So here's a little process dashboard. So this is an example of a K2 work list outside of SharePoint. There I can see all the different tasks. If I go and visualize one of them, let's have a look at the view flow of the Mr. 9 one. So I can see the process. I can see it's currently sitting at this approval stage. And what I'm going to do is, if I click on the actual item itself and open the form, this is now the form that's opened up, showing me the details of what's been submitted. What I included on this form was a little customer details tab. So if you had filled in the customer's details, so I'll fill it in for you. So I'll put in AdventureWorks inside here, and I go to the customer details. That's now loaded up those customer details out of the CRM system. And from here, I can still go and open up subforms to view the contact of a particular. So this is now pulling up more information from that backend customer details. So what I've done is I've allowed you to submit an expense claim, but when it's come to me for approval, I can see what you've submitted, but I'm also got access to additional tabs showing me more information out of the different backend systems. What I'm going to do for these particular ones, if I open up, let's open up one as the form. So this particular one I'm going to open up, I'm going to review it, and I'm going to go and say that I'm going to approve that and submit that particular one off. Then the other ones, just to save us a little bit of time, what I'm going to do is approve those from the task list. So I'm going to approve all of these. So hopefully you guys should be following the process, and you should see some notifications coming back if you indeed entered your SMS number inside there to update that. So if I also look at my tracking now and give that a refresh, what you can see is all of those now have been marked to completed, and those are because we've completed those processes. And of course, I could now take this view, put it on the expense claim view, and filter it only to show that employees details. So the next time you submit an expense claim, on another tab, I can show you all your previous expense claims and what the status of those are, so you can interact with that. And what will be interesting to know is if any of you guys actually added a new currency. So let's have a look. So no one added a new currency, but you're more than welcome to have added a new currency onto our little form there and see that currency appear in my Office 365 environment. But I'm having a bit too much fun, and I think I've probably just about run out of time. So excellent. So you're getting your approved text backs. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to the slide deck, and we can go through some final items.
Thank you, Igor. I think that is absolutely incredible. Again, it took me 10 minutes to do the slides, so in in 40 minutes, you've done the integration, built the approval forms, the submit form, a couple of reports. I mean, if we were in a world of development, that would have taken you probably a few days to accomplish what you did in a few minutes in K2. I've seen you do that a number of times, and it gives me goosebumps every time I see you do it. So thank you very much. I'm sure all of you that are watching can begin to see the potential of what the K2 platform could do. And believe it or not, Igor hasn't even scratched the surface of what's possible. So please go ahead and log any questions that you might have, and we'll try and answer them on the call. Igor doesn't wipe himself out.
Okay, the first question. Which K2 smartphone theme is being used for the demo?
That is a beta theme, which is a responsive UI theme. So if any of you guys had opened up that form on a mobile device, you would have seen it looked quite different. It would have rendered according to dimensions of your mobile device and actually rearranged things on the screen accordingly. So it's pretty cool. And that theme will be available in the next release of K2, which I think is in December.
The next question. When you designed the form, you have not added the customer details, did you?
No, I didn't. I did that on the second form. I probably ran out of time today, but it's just as easy for me to drag that view across and be able to add that inside there as well. If you want to see that after we ask a couple of questions, I'll probably just tap that onto the end and show you what that looks like. So just let me know if you do want to see that, and you will do that as well.
Next question. Will this work with SharePoint 2010 or only SharePoint 2013?
This will work with SharePoint 2007, SharePoint 2010, SharePoint 2013, and Office 365. You can even have a single K2 server servicing all of those at once if you want to as well. So K2 is independent from SharePoint and it integrates into SharePoint. It doesn't matter what version of SharePoint it is. Obviously, you need to think about what features in different versions of SharePoint that you want to take advantage of. But K2 will be able to do that.
Is this form a smartphone?
Yes, it is.
The next question is, how do you handle the generation of a document that is the output format required for the form input?
I'm not too sure what that question is, but what we can do is we can take our K2 smartforms are just a view onto the data. So if you remember, the data is not sitting in the form; it's actually sitting inside of the smart object. We can represent that onto a K2 smartform. We can PDF the K2 smartform. So the K2 smartforms actually has got a little tool that allows you to be able to do that as well. So if I just open up one of these my designer here, where is it now? Let me show you a quick little example of that. Here we go. So if I go into my event over here, into our little expense claim, onto our little expense claim form, and I edit that, what you'll see is on my controls, there's a little save as PDF. So that gives me an ability to go and snapshot this form as it is and save that as a PDF. What you can then do for document generation, like Word documents and things like that, K2 can do some basic document generation where we can take any of that data that's in a smart form, which could come out of CRM or Office 365 or SQL or wherever, and go and take some of that data and stick it inside of like Excel or inside of Word. And then what we also do for much more sophisticated document generation, we integrate with third-party document generation tooling that integrates with K2 Smart Objects as well, and then we can pass that into those as well.
The other question is, smartphones, are they HTML5
yes.
or Silverlight?
They are HTML5.
Okay.
I think you skipped one question, Emma. What is the K2 version? So we are running K2 Blackpearl, the latest update, and we're also running K2 Smartforms, the latest update of that as well.
Yeah. So I'm using the latest version of K2. Okay.
Right, that's all the questions. Just open up my slide deck there again, please, Igor. If any of you have any further questions, just please feel free to email Igor or myself. Our email addresses are on the bottom of that last page. This is a call to action. I know we've got existing customers on the line call as well as potential new prospects. So I've got two offers I want to make to you. First of all, anyone who's interested, I'd happy to share our K2 project success pack with you. It's a couple of documents and templates to help you get started with the analysis process for your potential K2 business applications. And so they include a viability checklist, some discovery questionnaires that you can go through with your business users, and a K2 requirement specification template. If you want any of those documents, please email Emma. She'll be happy to pass those on to you. And for any new customers out there considering K2, we have a few calendar year-end incentive options that are available. So please contact us directly to learn more about how we can help you build and run your applications. I look forward to hearing from you.
A follow-up email will be going out shortly. In that email, there'll be a link to the recording along with the Forrester report, which is the 2015 BPM predictions. So look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks for that, Emma. Right, that's over and out from us. Thanks for attending, everybody, and look out in your email boxes for a recording of today's webinar.